the period of glasnost, perestroika, and you could read some very interesting things. Some Soviet scientists said it looked like the aliens, got away with our spacecraft. Nobody knew what happened. Some mentioned strange small bodies around the craft just before it disappeared. Of course, there was this famous photograph. You can find it on the internet of a gigantic craft that was seen in the area of Phobos 2, and then it was gone. And it was a brilliant creation of the Earth science, not only Russian science, and it carried very highly developed, up-to-date technological apparatuses, and it was gone. And of course, the JPL was on it. They knew what was going on second by second. The Soviets, no one knew.
Well, I'm following along with your analogy about humans and ants. Why do you suppose they would feel so threatened if our technology had reached out to them as opposed to just them reaching out to us?
I don't know enough. I cannot grasp what they do and how I can only try to, as a researcher, try to see how others, those who are trained to study this phenomena, like astronomers, and forget about all this nonsense that you hear from debunkers in this country. Astronomers, for example, in Russia and former Soviet Union, knew quite a lot about UFOs, and they had excellent observations. Soviet naval officers, Soviet military officers, those who had served in the Air Force, they had seen UFOs on a continuous basis. And the Soviets had to create a program back in 1978 just to get all this information, to analyze it, to work it over, and to find out the answer, who they are, and do they present a threat to the Soviet Union. And this was a very interesting program. The second program of this sort that had existed in the Soviet Union. And we'll get back to it when we speak about the crystal skulls. But I don't. What I can tell you is this: I cannot think what the ET civilization wants from us. I can only see that we do have proof of them being here and around our planet.
Oh no, I get that. I am picking at your intergalactic referee theory, which I think a lot of people subscribe to, and I think it's an intriguing idea. I just wonder if when we do work together and we do make an effort to reach out to other planets, why they wouldn't take that opportunity to say, job well done.
Okay, let's get back to the biblical times. Remember the story of the tower that was, I believe, Tower of Babel,
right,
which was being built by joint forces of the humanity at the time? And I believe Sitchin had a very interesting description, but it's in the Bible. When the deities say, we do not want them to build the tower, they're becoming too advanced. And the end result was, I would say, the end to one language and one civilization.
Okay. But I would think all efforts to unify and to work together would be held up and would be encouraged. So I think that's why I was just kind of following along with that idea. All right, but let's just even put that aside for the moment, too. And I think that you bring up an intriguing idea that in reaching out to them, they are they may be trying to remain anonymous so that they can better referee us. What do you think would happen if there were a press conference that was different than the one that they had in Denver, but they actually did release video or some truly convincing piece of visual evidence that aliens are amongst us? What do you think would happen in the world? What do you think the reaction would be?
I think that today there would be less panic or earth-shattering events than would have been before. Remember, the Vatican has come out with the pronouncement that, you can believe in ETs, and I believe that a few other religions, major religions, are now not against the idea, and might not have been in the past. So I think we're becoming more grown up about it, but still, there are so many people with primitive outlook or what some consider primitive, and it will be the effect of a major nuclear bomb dropping down on an unsuspecting city. It's going to be I think an event of gigantic proportions. I just think that now we're a little bit more advanced than before, and maybe ready to receive it.
And real quickly, and I mean it has to be very fast, do you think that it would pull us together as a planet to learn that there was life that had been watching us for some period of time from another planet?
I should hope so, but I don't hold too much for humanity. I don't,
okay.
We're too young in our reactions. We're too eager to shed bloodshed and to shed blood, and
okay.
I'm not sure it will pull us together.
We'll leave it there for now. We'll get back to that, I'm sure, a little bit later on. Paul's going to be our guest for the entire evening. Paul Stonehill will address the crystal skulls question, the subject of the new Indiana Jones movie, and the subject of much research on his part, coming up next on Coast to Coast AM. This is Ian Punnett. There you go, Nick. Playing a good bumper. And thank you, Teddy and Miguel, for putting in so much effort on those two every night. Nice to have Gina back, too, manning the phones, which we'll get back to coming up later on tonight on Coast to Coast AM with our guest, Paul Stonehill. And we're just getting into, if you're just tuning in now, you haven't missed it, we're just getting into the discussion of the crystal skulls, the one that, of course, is at the core of so many stories, some of them news stories, some of them myths. And we'll try to sort out the difference between those two things. They've been in the news lately, these crystal skulls, not just because of the Indiana Jones movie, but also because of new reports on their composition. Coming up next, we'll talk about that with Paul Stonehill on Coast to Coast AM. This is Ian Punnett. Talking earlier with Paul Stonehill about some recent sightings in the Soviet Union for UFOs. I think it was earlier in a story that had been sent to me about some ancient sightings. I also found very interesting that I don't know if we've linked them up on our webpage or not, but I really enjoyed it. Your story of the Issyk-Kul, the remote deepwater lake.
Mm-hmm.
What year was that story from?
Well, Issyk-Kul, the sightings and strange stories can go back thousands of years. But after the war, at least we found out people found out after World War II. But I would say it goes back to maybe 1930s. Gigantic skeletons and silvery ornaments, which again, some bones that were found. But then again, if you're talking about the so-called swimmers that the Soviets had tried to capture back in 1982, that's something else. But
it was the three human skeletons that each were more than 3 meters tall. So roughly, what, 10 feet?
1930s.
Okay, no. But I mean the height in
9 feet?
In 9 feet-ish. So the skeletons were adorned with decorations that looked like bats.
Flying
right?
Bats, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think they all are. From silver. The men became scared out of their wits that found these giant skeletons, kept silent about their discovery for many long years. That sounds a little bit like the most recent Indiana Jones movie, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Now, have you seen that movie by any chance?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. Oh, you didn't enjoy it then?
No, not at all. I can't understand with all the capacity and abilities that Spielberg and Lucas have. Why would they decide to make basically an idiotic assertion that the Soviets would go to South America to steal the skulls? And even referencing, I don't think the two understood that in 1957 Stalin was gone, and the policy of the nation was not to mention Stalin too much, and a caricature that they had of a Soviet intelligence officer, in the guise of this woman with a sword. I mean, but even with their research, I'm sure they had money to spend not to know that it was not